Hi there, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss the impact that the biggest K-pop companies, as of now, are having on the public, and how it's affecting more than ever the evolution of K-pop. But before that, be sure to leave a like and also, why not checking out my other videos? You might be interested in some more. Now, for those who don't know, the term big labels refers to the biggest and the most known K-pop labels, debuting most of the more known K-pop groups and soloists, and releasing the most famous K-pop songs. We normally talk about the big companies from each generation, and, as of now, that we are towards the end of the fourth gen, they are commonly referred to as the Big Four, and they are SM Entertainment, JYP Entertainment, YG Entertainment and HYBE labels. Let's get one thing right out of the way. Although this was already widely agreed within the K-pop community, I recently had one of my TikToks blow up and I used the term Big Four, and let's just say some people were mad about it, so let's have the talk first. Is HYBE part of the big labels? Let's start with the difference between HYBE and the other three labels for those who might not know. SM, JYP and YG have been around in the K-pop scene for much longer than HYBE and have been considered the big three during the second and third generations of K-pop between 2005 and 2017. Even though they have the biggest influence in the K-pop industry, debuting the biggest artists of the fourth gen. However, HYBE just really started having more of an impact when BTS started going really big around 2016 and has only have a big influence now during the fourth generation era. Because of that, many say that HYBE does not compare to the others and therefore should not be included and create a Big Four category. Although HYBE does not have the history the other three labels have, I have to completely disagree with this kind of statements. You see, the main purpose of the title Big Three or Big Four is to include the agencies that no matter what they debut or what music they release, they will have success no matter what. Their label is so known and respected by the general public that not everything they do or touch grows big. They also have the biggest impact on K-pop, being the owners of the most famous K-pop groups and songs of the current generation. Although HYBE has not debuted as many artists as the other three agencies, HYBE has certainly had an impact on the K-pop scene, and a big one, starting in the third generation, by owning the biggest K-pop group to ever exist today, BTS. You don't need to be an army to acknowledge the impact that this group has in the whole music industry, and they certainly went beyond what other K-pop groups had achieved as of now. The only other group that can really compare to BTS is Blackpink, which is a group under YG. So, the fact that HYBE is home to BTS gives it a big status. But it's not only BTS that makes it part of the Big Four. Starting with the fourth generation, they debuted four groups: TXT, NHIPN, LE SSERAFIM and NewJeans. Now, I'm sure you know these four groups because they are some of the biggest groups of this generation. TXT and NHIPN are already well-established groups, being two of the biggest K-pop boy group acts as of now, and while LE SSERAFIM and NewJeans have debuted quite recently, both of their debuts were super big, and you know their future is most probably going to be bright. The four of these two groups, especially the two most recent ones, had instant success when debuting, have released some of the most popular tracks of the last years, and are at the top of the fourth-gen K-pop groups. This description is literally what you see in the other three big agencies. So I am not sure why there are so many people hesitant in calling HYBE a part of the Big Four agencies. More recently, NewJeans debuted and almost achieved a perfect all-kill on the music charts and has the best-selling debut of the fourth-gen girl groups. And sure, their music is nice, but let's be real, if this group were to be debuted under an agency like FNC or RBW, it would probably have a mild reception. The girls deserve the success though. An argument that many people also use is that the other agencies have been for much longer than HYBE, but this argument has nothing to do with the point, and you know why? During the first generation there were no big three companies, there were only two, known as the Big Two, and they were SM Entertainment and, surprisingly enough, DSP Entertainment. DSP Entertainment was at the top of the industry during the first generation, however, they didn't adapt to the new eras of K-pop and eventually started to fade off. And as of now, they were even acquired by RBW Entertainment, an agency out of the Big Four. So I see many using the argument that it was always Big Three and it will stay like that to exclude HYBE, but it's a false argument, as you can see. With that out of the way, let's talk about the Big Four privilege. The Big Four privilege is how anything released by one of these four companies will achieve massive success. They debut a brand new group, they will have 300k sales in the first week. Their group releases a song, seen as mid at best by the general public, but it still does well on charts. For me, it's actually infuriating when people praise Big Four artists when they try something new but completely despise the songs that did that same thing before but were released by smaller agencies and groups. Not that the song from the Big Four artist didn't deserve the attention, but because some other group, not from the Big Four, was criticized for doing the same before. Although it's normal for people to always pay more attention to groups from bigger agencies and to be more directed to like them, I just think it's really bad how people are so against smaller groups sometimes. So many people don't even give them a chance and say that they only release bad music or that the groups are talentless when they didn't even check out the smaller group in question. Big Four artists always had it easier, well, before it was Big Three, but you get it, they could release something not that different or special or revolutionary and break a bunch of records with it, while smaller groups could release an amazing and original song and receive zero attention. But nowadays I feel like international fans are more focused on the Big Four artists than ever before, neglecting the other groups. We see that the groups that receive a lot of success each generation are mainly from the big agencies, while there are 2 or 3 groups from smaller agencies that get recognition. Like in this generation, Stacy, ATEEZ, and IVE are groups from smaller agencies that are getting a lot of recognition. Although IVE's case is a special one, because they had 2 really popular members from IZ*ONE, the other 2 groups got really popular. Normally, it's these 2 or 3 small agency artists that people use to make the argument of smaller agency groups are small because they release bad music. The ones that release good music go big, like those 2 or 3, but we all know that's a lie. With no disrespect to groups like Stacy or ATEEZ that totally deserve the recognition they have, but these 2 or 3 groups get the recognition they deserve because I feel like the community is like, well, okay, this group can go big, and people all agree to that. If K-pop was really about the music, ONEUS's Luna would have gone viral, and you all know that. I still have to hear someone say that Luna is a bad song or that they didn't like it. And before y'all start commenting how Luna is a boring song or whatever, just for the sake of upsetting me, I won't take into consideration those kind of comments. So, objectively, Luna is an amazing song with a really interesting structure and concept, and while it did well for ONEUS level, it was not a super popular song. In fact, some of you that are watching this video may not even know it, so here's a glimpse of the song. And there are more cases like Luna, if you think that Luna wasn't that amazing. Objectively well done songs that the people who hear it like it, but they don't reach the general public. We also know, if K-pop was really about the music, some songs from big artists wouldn't chart that high when they are the bare minimum for a song. It's not also only about the fact that small artists don't get the recognition they deserve, it's also because bigger agency groups always have a free pass for when they release bad music. If a small group releases a bad song, it's expected they have an awful discography and they will never be good, but when a big group does that, they find an excuse for it and hear it either way. There's this double standard right now in K-pop that when you release a song, it will be perceived by the general public differently if it's released by a group from the Big Four or by a group from a small agency. If it's released by the Big Four, people will always look for the good parts of the song. If it's released by a small agency, people will look out for the bad parts of the song. I will give you an example on this one. Earlier this year, JYP debuted and mixed with the controversial song Oh Oh that was seen by so many people as a generally bad song, badly produced and with a failed idea. 1 month later, Purple Kiss of the smaller label RBW released Memem, which was also badly received by the general public, with similar reasons that it was a messy song and the production was not good. However, Oh Oh received a massive support over the next days of release, while Memem fell flat after some days of release, but let's see why. With Oh Oh, everyone started saying that the idea of the song was bad and that it was poorly executed, but that it had some good parts, and above all, the girls were talented, and because of that, people should give it more opportunities. Due to the popularity of the group that had nearly debuted, many people also started using the song on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts, in a way, forcing people to hear the song, which along with the ideology that I stated before, people just started getting used to it, and the song started to have more success. Purple Kiss didn't have that luck. While their song was a lot less controversial than N-Mix's, people said this song was disappointing because the chorus was bad and it was generic sounding and never gave props to the good parts of the song, or, even better, acknowledging that the girls were talented. No, they solely spread the narrative that the song was bad overall, even when at most didn't like 1 or 2 parts of the song. It was so bad that at a certain point, people started saying that Purple Kiss's whole discography was bad due to this single song in a 3 EPs discography, may I say. This song also didn't get the attention and use on social media like Oh Oh did because Purple Kiss are a smaller group. Now, I don't think it's important if you like these 2 songs or not. This was to point out how 2 songs that had pointed to them the same bad aspects got totally different treatments by the general public. And these 2 are not isolated cases either. This problem of monopolization of the industry by these 4 companies has been aggravating this generation, in my point of view. The international fan base of the 3rd generation was much more welcoming to smaller groups, and they actually were loud about the fact that the Korean fan base was so biased towards big 3 groups. But now, international fans are the same, or even worse than the Korean fans in this matter. I don't know what's up with the new K-pop fans, but most of them seem to only care about the big 4 groups, and you notice that when they are so disrespectful with actual relative big groups that are not from those 4 agencies. For example, it's now used the term Nugu as something pejorative to the group, and it's even used to groups that are not Nugus at all. I'm so tired of seeing people that know nothing about K-pop call one us, for example, Nugus, when they are literally selling 200k sales with their albums. Like, those are not Nugu numbers, not at all. Personally, I feel like this change in attitude of the international fan base has to do with how the younger generations perceive branding in general. More than ever, being part of the trend is more important than anything. People want to use products of famous brands, not because they find it pretty or good, but because they want to fit in and be like the other thousands that use these branded products. This is no different from what's happening in K-pop. These younger fans are mainly joining K-pop because they want to follow the trend and they want to follow the hottest K-pop acts and be part of a fandom that is big and achieves big things from a group that has a lot of achievements, and not because they like their music or artistry. Yeah, they may choose between those famous ones, the ones they like the most, but it has to be a famous act, because if not, why are they even joining K-pop? They want to fit in, and following a small group will not help you with that. That's like using a good, yet unbranded shirt. Obviously, there are still many fans that do join K-pop for the music, groups, dynamics, etc., and not because it's trending, but because they genuinely like the groups. But the fact that people are starting to be more interested in the brand than the product itself is worrying. Honestly, I think we are already seeing the results of it. Many Big Four labels are starting to show a decay in music quality, but still receiving more and more popularity. One perfect example is SM. SM is a company that is known for its experimental songs and by how their artists have always very unique sounds and try very unique ideas. Their artists also have their own auras, and each one of them released their unique songs. But now, SM is basically releasing noise music with every single comeback. Look at NCT, their regular comebacks follow the same idea, noise music. And this idea is not something only NCT is trying, not at all. It's something that pretty much every single boy group is doing right now. It's true that NCT always had this type of sound, but their initial work sounded distinctive from one another, but now, they always have the same feeling. Not only that, but I don't know the difference between the NCT units anymore. They all have the same type of sound. We can't forget that NCT do release different type of songs on their repackages, but those ones are barely promoted and normally aren't the main release, and even so, they aren't so innovative in many of the instances they release a repackage. aespa also has a very unique soundscape when they debuted. They had a really interesting discography where you could see that they were focusing more on the hyperpop. However, when aespa got super popular, what did SM do? Give them a NCT Reject, another noise song that brings nothing new to the table. Not only that, but their album was also pretty different, with so many generic songs, very different from their original aura. Old SM wasn't like this. HYBE is another agency that I feel like it's losing their sparkle. The quality of their latest songs has been decreasing, and it seems like they don't care. But what were the results of this decrease in quality and innovation these two agencies had? Well, more success. This new generation is letting K-pop feel stagnant with their song releases because small groups don't get a place to shine, and big groups don't need to be innovative with their songs because they don't have much competition. So, all in all, Big Four privilege exists, and there's no denying in that. If you truly think that it does not exist, I suggest you to go out, touch some grass, and come back and see the facts. And before everyone starts saying I am a Big Four hater, I literally stan 3 artists from the Big Four. For example, Asamoah, I'm perfectly aware that their popularity was mainly due to the fact that they were BTS younger brothers, but that doesn't mean they aren't talented or that they didn't deserve it. And after seeing the group, I fell to their charms. But I wouldn't probably know about them if they were from under a small agency, only if I randomly decided to watch their MV. My message with this video is that we, as a community, should start be more fair with smaller groups and start listening to their songs without prejudice against them for their status, and for also be a bit more conscious about what big groups release, because we don't need to hear that if we don't like. There are plenty of K-pop songs released every week. If you don't like a release from the big artists, even if it's an artist you stan, it's alright, and it's not like you won't have a recent song to listen to. Although there are a lot of small groups that do release weak songs, mainly because they don't have the funds to have better producers or to have proper training, there are also a ton of small groups that release good music and put out the best of themselves to try succeed in the K-pop industry and doing for a living what they love. Let's not generalize such a heterogeneous group into a single tag and see each individual group for what they are and what they mean to us. Let's start having our own opinions and not be pressured by what the trends tells us to like and what to dislike, or what's good and what's not. See you all in the next video.
Fly me to the moon 나를 데려가